Hi there. Welcome to Dog Life Radio, and I am your host, as usual, Rossi Giugio. Welcome. So nice to see you again. You're looking well. I hope you're feeling well. All right, so I've got something pretty cool for us today. Today, I have the opportunity and good fortune to release to you the very first... Thank you, Peace Tribe. As always, thank you, Peace Tribe. The very first interview conversation that I have had with a professional mixed martial artist. So for those of you who know me, you know that I love MMA. All sorts, all types, just a big fan. Right, Randall? I know we are. All right, Randall, long-time listener, first-time caller. Got the chance to see him not too long ago. So, hey, Randall. But... So today I'm releasing out a conversation with Matt Bessette, the Mangler. For those of you who know him, you know most recently he fought on Dana White's Looking for a Fight. So he is knocking on the door of the UFC as we speak. He is currently the Classic Entertainment in Sports, or CES, Featherweight champion, 145 pounds that is. He's fought on many cards actually on for Bellator. So he is a known commodity in this space, and again, I think he is definitely just waiting for his shot, for his moment, and hopefully we get the chance to see him in the octagon of the UFC very soon. So we had the chance to talk with him. It was fantastic. We talked about nutrition, we talked about diet, we talked about training, all kinds of things. Including the origin of that name, the Mangler. I don't know about you, but I do love a good nickname. I am equally intrigued by bad nicknames, but the Mangler's an awesome nickname, and we talk a little bit about that as well, because that's just something that I do. Love it. So enjoy, people. This was a great conversation, and thank you again for listening. Hey, thanks for supporting the show. Remember to follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, all at Dog Life Radio. Help me spread the good word, too. So share the links on whatever social media you prefer. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or follow it on Podbean, Stitcher, Google Play, Overcast, or wherever you're listening. So throw up a 4-star or 4-cloud or whatever. Thank you very much. It's the best way to help others find the podcast. And as always, send me any feedback. I would love to hear from you. dogliferadio@yahoo.com. On with the show. We are live. All right, this is Rossi Giugio, Dog Life Radio, and I am here with very special guest, Matt the Mangler. Matt, how are you doing today?
I'm excellent. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for taking the time to out of your busy day to talk with me today. So just for the listeners who aren't familiar, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong here, but you are the current Classic Entertainment and Sports, or CES MMA champ for the Featherweight division.
Yes, sir. I am the featherweight champion, the 145-pound champion.
All right, that's awesome. So let's just jump right into, you are a fellow Connecticut guy. I'm from northern Connecticut. I'm up in the Granby, Connecticut area. You're down in Hartford. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and how you jumped into the MMA space?
Yep, actually, I grew up in Stafford Springs, Connecticut, so I'm in the northern part of the state as well. I live there currently now. I train in Hartford, in central Connecticut, and I also own a gym in Bristol, Connecticut. So I travel around Connecticut, as I from time to time, day to day, I'm driving around Connecticut. I got into MMA when I was, what was that, maybe 21 years old, which is... thinking about how early guys are starting now, it's actually really, really late starting at 21 years old.
That is true. It's scary, but that's true.
Yeah, it's very true. You look at guys now that start when they're, 3 or 4 years old, like the time that I started soccer and basketball, they're starting, judo and jiu-jitsu. So the newer guys now in martial arts are going to be just so much better than the guys of today. In maybe 5 to 10 years, it's going to be a whole new crew of people coming in. It's going to be pretty amazing.
It really is, because when you think about it, when you go back, when I first started even watching MMA, excuse me, I think the first pay-per-view event I ever watched was Matt Hughes against Hoist Gracie. And thinking about Matt Hughes was at the peak. He was completely and totally dominant. But then, George St. Pierre comes along, and he's one of those next gen type of welterweights at the time. And then moving on to this space now, maybe George is a bad example because he just came back and was successful. But the evolution of these young kids who are coming into the game, it's just scary how fast and strong and well-rounded they are.
Yeah, George himself is a very unique person to think about, because you take 4 years off. If anybody takes 4 years off of anything and then comes back, they're a little rusty. But George looked better in his last fight than he's ever looked, which is very, very weird. But that's George.
It's scary, and he comes back at a heavier weight too, which was like, I was just thinking he's just going to get pushed around a little bit, And I was betting on. I thought Bisping would win by decision. I was thinking that was going to happen.
Yeah, a lot of people thought that was going to be the outcome. Actually, I trained with George for about 10 days out in Montreal when he was getting ready for his Nick Diaz fight, and just watching the guy train, he's very, very smart. Outside of being very athletic and just always looking for knowledge, he's a very, very smart guy. That being said, I knew that in my mind, in my heart, George was going to be the favorite, and I was correct.
Yeah. So we took a turn there. So you got into it a little later than the norm, around 21 years old, you were saying.
Yeah, I got into it when I was about 21 years old. Little background on me, I had leukemia. I got leukemia when I was about 2.5. And I was fighting for it through leukemia for the first part of my life. I lost it completely when I was 11, and so first third of my life I was dealing with that. So I was always in and out of the hospital, getting shots and spinal taps, and being put under and going through this, that, and the next thing. So I've always been fighting, whether it was fighting MMA, fighting in a cage, or fighting for my life, or what. I was always fighting. And then maybe around 7 years old, I started getting into fights at school. I could not tell you why. It's not like I was a bad kid or anything like that. I just got into a lot of fights. I was one of the more popular kids growing up as well, but it's not like, and I wasn't one of those kids who did drugs or drank or anything like that. I just like to fight, and people, for whatever reason, like to pick on me. So I always had to fight. So MMA just kind of made sense. As soon as I found out that there was something you could do, you could get paid to fight in a cage, I was like, oh, cool, sign me up.
Yeah. So and you're 32 now, so you've been doing this, excuse me, a bit over a decade into your career, and it seems as though, as I look at your official Sherdog fight history, went on a pretty damn good tear, and recently had the opportunity to do Dana White's Looking for a Fight. Excuse me.
Yes, I did, and that was a great opportunity as well. Hopefully I get another one with them after the what happened with my recent opponent and that whole situation out there.
Yeah, I was I was going to ask about it. Literally, does it look like 6, 7, 8 or so wins in a row? Then Looking for a Fight didn't go the way, obviously, that you wanted. Then some things happened where it was overturned. The Athletic Commission overturned that to a no contest. Thinking and hoping that we're going to hear something maybe from him, from Dana or whomever over at the UFC to get another opportunity, or at this point, do you have any insight into any of that you can speak about?
Yeah, I don't have any definite answers for anybody. I can tell you that we are talking to them. They don't know exactly the date they're going to start a season 2, but they are in talks with the second season. And so I don't know if you know this, but I have a Bennett's fracture to my right thumb, which is a dislocation and a break, and that happened during the fight. It was actually the very first right hand that I landed. So it was about 30 seconds into the fight, I broke my thumb. So not only did I break it, but I dislocated it, so I couldn't use the thumb at all. That hand was completely gone.
That's got to change the whole direction of how you were planning and your game plan, because being such a huge part of actually grappling, grabbing, clinching, takedowns, the whole nine.
Yeah, and minus the fact that all of my knockouts have come with my right hand, so it was my knockout punch too.
Yeah, man. So
So
you're on the mend there.
It sucked, but before we even found out about my opponent taking the illegal IV, we were talking to Shelby and the matchmaker over there at the UFC, and he was like, "Okay, we did not know that happened to your thumb. Given your record and what you can do, what we know you can do, maybe there's a chance we can get you back on the show. There's a good possibility we can." And then when they found out about the IV, it was like, all right, let's just get you in there. That's awesome. So it sounds like I can't put words in their mouth, but it really sounds like season 2 is going to have a little bit of Matt Bessette in it too.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. I tell you what, that of late, that division, the 145s, and you could even throw 155s in the mix. There's tons of competition, lots of great fighters. Awesome to see a local guy, at least local to me, getting his chance and another chance at breaking into the big leagues there. And I kind of should caution that you've done a lot in your career to this point, fighting for CES, but as well as on a number of Bellator cards.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't remember this because it was like 5 years ago now, almost 5 years ago now. But I fought in the Bellator tournament. It was the very last Bellator tournament that they had. So it wasn't just Bellator undercard. I was fighting on TV in their tournament. So the way they ran the tournament, I don't know if you remember, but it was you fought once a month, and if you win the tournament, you get $100,000. I think it was $100,000 total with your winnings and your earnings from fight to fight. And I ended up fighting Diego Nunez, who was formerly the number 3 ranked featherweight in the world, having recently lost to Kenny Florian. And he was going to fight. Had he beaten Kenny, he would have fought for the title, his next fight in the UFC. And then I fought Daniel Weichel, who, as many people know, his only loss over the past 5 years is to Patricio Pitbull, who he had pretty much knocked out, and the bell saved Patricio. And they're going to fight again. I just don't know when. But those are my last two fights in the tournament, and I had a really good showing. But people forget about that because it was a while ago.
It was a bit. I do remember the tournament, and that's funny how you mention it like that, because that's something. Those are big names. Those are big name people in that division. People, I think they can get wrapped up in some of the current space where you've got some of the other names that are in the UFC, but forgetting about the Pitbull brothers, so to speak. But the Pitbulls and Diego, those were big names at that point.
Yeah, and I actually. My last fight, I can't remember the date right now. My last fight I had for Bellator, I think I fought Keith Richardson. They asked me a week or two before I was supposed to fight him that they said Patricio Pitbull doesn't have an opponent for the same fight card that we were both already fighting on. Doesn't have an opponent because his opponent backed out, he got hurt or whatever. Would you fight Patricio? And I was like, absolutely.
Oh,
and I stepped up to fight him, and he declined the fight so that he could fight a guy who was already 0-2 or 0-3 in Bellator. And, that's, to me, that says something. But
yeah, taking short notice fights. I mean, you see it here and there where you see, I think Fabricio Verdum just took a short notice fight against a guy, I don't want to say that was beneath him, but Fabricio is arguably one of the best walking around at heavyweight right now, if not the best walking around aside from Stipe. And it was a couple of rungs down, and when people turn those down on the short notice, you kind of think they're thinking that's a no-win. So that's got to make you feel good.
Yeah, for sure.
Ah, cool. So okay, so you're
My son just got home from school and he's got a cut on his finger. How'd you get that cut on your finger?
fighting like you.
The cat scratched you, I guess.
Maybe does the apple's not falling far from the tree there?
He's getting into fights with the cats. I was getting into fights with people. He's getting into fights with the cats.
Give him time. Give him time. Maybe he'll follow. So speaking of your kids, does he train? Does he do any? Do you have him doing any training or jiu-jitsu, wrestling, that type of a thing?
Yeah, Caleb just turned 10 a week and a half ago, and he's been training jiu-jitsu probably since he was about 5 years old, and we're getting him into wrestling this December. So a few more weeks he'll be starting wrestling, and he just played his first year of football, and he went from somebody who didn't really know much about football at all to one of the kids that was pretty aggressive, and he was one of the faster kids on the team too. So maybe next year he's going to be a standout, I think.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love jiu-jitsu. Personally, I would love to get my son into it. I'm kind of trying to find a place that's close enough where I'm not driving an hour to bring him to his classes, just a locational thing. But I think it's fantastic for kids to be able to train like that.
For sure, for sure. Where are you now?
I'm up in Granby.
Are you still in Granby? Okay.
Yeah, I think one of the closest places up here might be, there's a Team Link over in Enfield. I used to train with Team Link years ago, but it's a good 45 minutes away, 45 minutes. So, I don't know, we'll see. We will see.
Yeah, that one's actually, it's actually not up anymore. If you were looking into training, that one's not up anymore. I think they closed those doors maybe like 3 months ago.
No kidding. But, was it Brian American and Eric were over there? That's a bummer.
Yeah.
Well, let's get back to you. I had a question for you about so you're fighting at 145, and there's been a lot of discussions surrounding weight cutting, that type of a thing. So I wanted to ask you, what weight do you walk around at normally?
Normally, I'm about 170. Okay. But I train a lot, even if I'm not in fight shape and I'm not getting ready to fight. I'm always trying to stay in at least decent shape. So if I didn't train so much, like right now I'm still training 5 or 6 days a week, once or twice a day. But if I wasn't doing that, I'd probably be like 175 to 180.
No kidding. Okay, so that's a pretty decent cut you've got there for weight. How obviously you must find it okay if you're consistently hitting the 45. But I mean, I know as people get, I don't want to say get older because you're still such a young guy, but as you move on in your career, sometimes the cuts get a little bit worse. How are you combating that?
Yeah, actually, the weight cuts they're actually getting easier for me. But the biggest thing is the diet. It's not the cut. There's 2 ways to lose the weight. It's the diet and then the final cut. The cutting of the weight is what you're going to sweat out. You're going to sit in a bath, do the sauna suit, sit in a sauna, whatever, however you decide to do it. That's the actual cut where you're just cutting the last like day or 2. Before that, the most important thing is the diet itself. So I go from 168 to about 154 with diet. So I'll lose 14 pounds with diet over a certain amount of time. And then I go from 154 to 146 in about 48 hours time.
Okay. All right. So have you ever, earlier in your career, what are the bigger lessons learned, I guess, from a weight cutting piece?
Oh, man. I didn't know what I was doing at all. Maybe that's why it was good that I started at lightweight, because my first I don't know how many, 12 fights maybe, maybe more than that, were at lightweight. The weight cuts were easy, but I didn't know what I was doing with dieting. As soon as I figured out dieting and how my body reacted to certain foods, then the extra 10 pounds came off relatively easy. It was no different. And actually, if I weigh in at 155, I'll weigh 164 the following day for the fight. If I weigh in at 145, I weigh in at 161 for the following day for the fight, at the max.
No kidding.
So I'm relatively the same exact weight. You know, my body doesn't want to get up, any higher than that, like, low 60s area.
That's a pretty good size 145er, and you're not walking around. You're 5'10", according to Share Dog here anyway. So that's a pretty good size individual getting in a cage for a 145 match.
Yeah. My last fight, if IVs are legal in the state that I'm in, I'll use them, as everybody should, because it only makes you healthier, right? You want to get healthier sooner. So if they allow the IV, you take it. If they don't, then you don't. But but that's where the last fight there was a little shadiness. But the last fight I got up to 158 instead of like 161, just because I didn't have an IV.
Yep.
But I felt great. I felt fine.
How did your opponent feel? Did he feel when you were scouting him out? Were you anticipating a bigger, stronger type of a guy? When I hear things like overturned for illegal use of IV, I'm thinking he's going to recover better from a cut. Maybe he had a bigger weight cut to go through, that type of a thing.
Yeah, I mean, he went from 146 to just like yikes. He was much bigger than I was in the cage.
Yeah.
But that doesn't matter to me at all. That didn't matter to me at all. That wasn't the thing. The biggest thing was just my inability to use my right hand. And that was the biggest thing. Hadn't I injured my hand, I really do feel like it would have been a completely different outcome with my hand being raised at the end. But, if and but, right? There's really nothing I can do at this point. So, he got the victory that night, but because of what happened with the IV, it got overturned, and hopefully that plays in my favor, and I get a little bit more airtime because of it.
Yeah, I gotta say it's got to. I mean, I'm not in the business, but I've been following. I'm a diehard MMA fan. Those types of things. Hopefully, you get another chance and another crack at it, so you can get in there, 100% healthy or as healthy as you can be to at least get out there and go a full 3 rounds if you need to.
Yeah, and like right now, I'm able to train. And just make sure I take my hand up and protect it a little bit. I'm able to train at a good pace, and my cardio is always there. My cardio is always there. I'm just waiting to get my grip back in my right hand, because right now it's some days are good, some days I wouldn't be able to thumb wrestle my 10-year-old kid. So
so you were mentioning how you can get a lot of your weight under control, or at least where you want it to be, through diet. Is there any specific diet plan or program that you're utilizing now?
Honestly, man, it's funny. People go out of their way to buy into like certain meal plans and doing this, doing that. They need a professional cook, and they need all these dietitians and stuff. I just eat what makes me feel good. And I eat stuff that gives me energy. And if I feel like I'm eating too much, I just tone it down. And I'm always looking at the scale. I'm always looking at how much energy I have in the morning. If I have a good energy, I look into what I ate over the past couple days, and I stick with that. I just stay higher on the veggies, on the greens specifically.
Yep.
Higher on the veggies. Like try to avoid sugar altogether, unless it's your fruits like your bananas or your apples or oranges. And I eat my lean meats because I'm not a vegetarian. I'm not a vegan, so I can pretty much eat what I want outside of going nuts and having a giant brownie.
Yeah. No, it is funny how you see a lot of that, especially in social media. Different people going, the extreme paleo, the extreme vegan, utilizing different methods and means. The professional cooks, yeah, that's always funny. I see that where, you've got nutritionists that can come in and, not to pick on anybody, not for nothing, but, you've seen there's different guys, and, I won't even mention any names, that have problems making weight, and it appears from the outside looking in to be a diet issue. And it feels like what you're describing is kind of approaching it with, we're going to attack it with, natural, holistic foods. You're paying attention to your body. So that's got to probably take a little bit of focus and discipline to the portion control piece. To remember, I ate that much.
It's all portion control. Yeah. It's all portion control. It's always been portion control. It's the people that miss weight are the ones that just they have no control of what they put in their mouth. It's that simple. Johnny Hendricks had missed weight more times than I can count. And when he makes weight, it's like, oh, Hendricks made weight, holy cow!
That's who I was talking about.
Yep. So honestly, I really think it's just portion control. If you're hungry after you've eaten, have a glass of water and just walk away from the damn table.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's exactly who I was thinking of. He's got to be the number one on everybody's mind when you start talking about people missing weight, and then even when he does make weight, like you said, it's a big deal. And then I saw his last fight, and he was fighting at 185. He's like 5'8", I think. He's around that height, and so he's clearly not a middleweight from a height perspective. And he fought that guy Costa from Brazil, and that guy was enormous.
Yeah.
I mean, he looked like a 205er easily. So I'm thinking, oh man, you got to get that diet under control if you want to last here.
Yeah, I know. Johnny, looking at especially Johnny's last fight, you're right. That guy, they looked clearly, very clearly, that they should have been in different weight classes, which tells me and tells your average Joe watching MMA that this guy should not be in this weight class. He needs to get his diet under control. And it's not that he's just a smaller guy for that weight class. He just should not be in that weight class at all.
Yeah, no, absolutely, because it's not, and it's not always about having like the most chiseled, ripped physique. Like that guy Costa looked like he looked like a friggin' Calvin Klein model with a little extra bulk. I mean, he was chiseled, but that doesn't always make you the best fighter. You don't need to be chiseled, but Johnny kind of reminded me of my own physique, a little bit loose around the middle.
I know. There's a lot of your everyday fans look at that and they're like, that guy doesn't look like he even trained for this fight.
Yeah.
But that is Johnny Hendricks. He still is one of the best guys in the entire world, be it at welterweight or middleweight. But if he just had the self-control and was able to manage his portion control, I honestly believe that he'd still be one of the top 170-pound fighters in the world.
I think you're right. He had such incredible power, movement, and I think he had Mike Dolce in a couple of times to help him get his nutrition under control, and it worked. But I got to imagine a guy like Mike doesn't come cheap.
Yeah, probably not. But even that, I'm not a specialist. But guys like Mike Dolce, they're nutritionists, and they can absolutely help. But the biggest thing is I have never had a nutritionist. I've never had a Mike Dolce in my corner. But somehow I always have the best cardio out of anybody I fight. Every single time, they always come in the back and they're like, holy crap, your cardio is out of control. You felt strong from the first bell to the last bell. You always kept going. If the fight kept going, I know that you would have kept going. And they're like, what do you do? And it's just because I push myself all the time. And I do eat the right things leading up to it. My diet is good, but I don't know. It's I feel like there's a lot of performance can be tied back to just, do you want it or not? Are you tough enough or not? I think that a lot of performances should be linked to just mental strength, for real. There's a lot of guys that they'll break and that tires them. They'll break as soon as they get hit and that tires them. If I get hit, I don't tire at all. And I think a lot of the better fighters just get stronger the more they're in the shit,
Yeah, no, I mean, it makes sense because you can kind of see it sometimes when you're watching people fight. And, that Hendricks and Costa fight, I remember watching it, and I remember in the very beginning of it, I think Hendricks was throwing a couple of punches, and he was doing okay, moving around, but then Costa hit him with a couple of leg kicks, and I think right then you could tell that Hendricks was thinking, holy shit, this guy kicks hard. And it seemed like he was like, man, I'm wrestling with my dad. There's no way I'm going to beat him. Where you could see it. I mean, I'm sure it hurt like hell, and I couldn't do it. So I don't mean to. I'm not throwing hate at him. I'm just saying, to your point, when somebody talks about I could feel him break, sometimes you can see it happen too.
Yeah. I've never fought an MMA fighter in a cage up a weight class like that, but I have sparred very hard with guys that weigh 100 pounds more than me. Probably I shouldn't have, but guys that are much bigger than me, guys that hit much harder than me, and I've never gone, oh no, he kicks really hard. Oh no, never thought that comes through my head. But I think that stays true for all the tougher guys. They don't ever think of that. I think all the tougher guys think, okay, that's how hard you can hit me. Now I'm going to hit you equally as hard. You know, I'm going to give one back to you.
See, that's the other piece to it. It's like you could see one or the other usually. You see the one where they break, and then the other one where somebody gets cracked really good, and you can see that smile like, damn, that hurt, but I'm liking this. It's that Cowboy Cerrone kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, I like those guys.
Yeah, yeah. It's the I don't want to say it's the mentality of somebody who was born to be a fighter, somebody who truly wants to be in there, because maybe they weren't born to be a fighter, but they're working their ass off and they want to be in that cage, versus somebody who, you know, maybe who's got the skills and trains really hard, but, you know, could kind of take it or leave it type of a thing.
Yeah, I think there's two separate people. The one person that was, like you said, was kind of born to fight. The people that get hit and it just gives them more fuel, which is kind of like me. My first however many fights, honestly, sometimes I think of it's still true now, but my first however many fights, I would have to get hit first before I was like, okay, my turn. It was almost like a fight back mentality. And then there's your guys that, like Diego Sanchez is very similar to me. Like, you get hit and then he just keeps getting better. Just kind of keeps getting more and more powerful. He's like the Hulk, you know.
He's an
make
animal.
him angry, he just gets better. That's how I compare Diego. But you know, and then there's the guys that are just super athletic, just really athletic, and were just meant. They're probably gonna be good at anything that they did athletically, but they chose martial arts. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Yeah, no, it makes sense. Makes sense. Like, you know, and that thing about with Diego, that you could see him even in his last fight, which did not end well for him at all. But up to that point, he was going up weight classes, fighting a bigger, stronger guy, and he still had that animal tenacity to him. And even after the fight, he was still like, I'm not done, you know?
Yeah. Diego is a fighter, that's why. He'll never be done.
No.
Even when he's done, he'll never be done. He's fought at 185, 170, 155, and 145.
It's amazing. And he was, I mean, when he fought at 185, was that I think that was the weight class he won the Ultimate Fighter at.
Yes, that was it.
So then he
That's
did
crazy.
that. It's nuts. He won the Ultimate Fighter at 85. He was I don't think he ever fought for the belt at 70, but he was a solid contender. He fought a lot of big names and fought really well at that weight. Goes to 55. I think at 55 he fought. I thought he fought BJ Penn there.
He fought BJ Penn, but BJ wasn't the champion, I don't think, at that point, was he?
No, I don't. I think you're right. But
I don't think he
that
ever
was
fought for a belt.
that was when BJ was really, I think, probably at one of his peaks where he was a destructor at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then Diego then sucking down to 45. That was kind of tough to see. He looked a little. I don't know. That's got to be ridiculously tough for a guy like that. I think 55 was probably a good weight for him, but 70 is probably a hell of a lot easier for him now at his age.
Yeah. What was his last fight? Well,
I think he fought Matt Brown.
Oh, is that 170?
170, yeah. Brown. I think the way it ended was
Got him with the elbow.
yeah, that vicious elbow. Oh, that was brutal. Matt Brown is a complete savage, and that was. You kind of knew that fight wasn't going to last too long, and it was going to end in spectacular fashion.
Yeah, absolutely. That was good matchmaking right there.
Yeah. I think that was a tailor-made one right there for fight of the night or knockout of the night. Hey, you know, I got a question about knockouts for you. Can you describe the feeling of a knockout versus a TKO? How you feel?
When you get knocked out?
No,
or
when you're knocking them out.
Well, if you hit somebody here's this. If you hit somebody right on the button, a lot of times you don't even realize like how hard you hit them. It's kind of like, did you play baseball growing up?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
When you hit the ball like right on the sweet part of the bat.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, wow, that went a lot further than I thought. It's kind of like that. When you hit somebody right on the button, even if you hit them and you like barely graze them right on the chin, you don't think it's that hard, and they drop, and it's just like turning off a light switch.
Yep.
You know, so there's that. A lot of times when you hit somebody like that, you're like, oh shoot, I didn't realize I hit him that hard. And then other times you hit this guy with like 110% of your power right on like, you know, a harder part of the head, and he just kind of wobbles, but he's still there. You know, a lot of it is placement, where you throw the punch. It doesn't even necessarily have to be super hard. It's just where you throw the punch. So precision is really, really important. That being said, when you knock somebody out, how do I want to put this? It's empowering. It's very empowering. When you TKO somebody, obviously it's like, okay, the feeling is the referee had to stop this fight because had it gone any further, you would have died. You know, the referee is here to save your life. That's pretty much what it is. Anytime you tap out, it's like you're saying, please save my life, referee. Anytime the referee steps in, the referee's going, this is where you would die. I'm saving your life. So,
yeah.
So that's the TKO comes with a lot of satisfaction. But to me, when you knock somebody out and they're completely lifeless and they're staring at the mat like, where the hell am I? That's really cool too.
Got to tell you that walk-off knockout is probably some of the most impressive, and I think it's the one where when a fighter hits their opponent, watches them fall, and just kind of walks away because they know that it's all done. That's like that walk-off home run kind of a thing.
You know what's funny is, like, I almost had one of those because when I hit Kamaworthy with my lead hook cross combo,
yep.
and I dropped him, he kind of folded, like all of his limbs just kind of went dead, and he like slowly crumbled to the ground, and I knew that he was out on his feet. I knew it. The first thing that popped in my head was, oh, he's out. But I knew that how, if you don't follow up with punches, some guys will wake up when they hit the mat. So instead of just going and raising my hand and kind of walking away, I was like, all right, I'll keep hitting him. So I think I hit him like once, maybe two more times, and then the referee dove in and saved him. But that could have been an opportunity for me to get that. But I chose the smarter route and continued to punch him.
Absolutely, because you've seen too many times where people watch and then they get back up and people turn the fight around completely. Bisping and Anderson Silva. Bisping caught that knee, and I mean, he looked like he was out. And I think it was the bell that saved him, if I'm remembering correctly. And he came back and he ended up getting a decision in the fight. So,
yeah, I think the referee stepped in. Yes, the bell saved him. The referee stepped in, and the crowd was so loud because of after that flying knee that Anderson thought that the referee was stopping the fight, so he got on top of the cage, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's it exactly. Yep.
Yeah, he got on top of the cage, and he thought it was over. Everybody thought it was over in Anderson's corner, but everybody else was like, no, this fight is still going on. That was just the round timer. So, yeah, that was crazy. That was like the second or third round or something.
Yeah, that was quite the fight. So, I got another question for you. So this one, I always love nicknames. And the thing that gets me the most about him is the stories behind him. So the Mangler kind of goes with Matt the Mangler. I get it, the M sounds. But where did the Mangler come from?
Yeah, it was before my first fight. We're downstairs. You know who Kip Kolar is? He's the owner of NAGA, North American Grappling Association.
Yep.
That's where I used to train before I had a school that I was actually training at. I kind of trained at his house for the first few fights.
No kidding.
And yeah, exactly. It's funny, but like that's how it was. But we're downstairs and we're training, and Kip just said, "Hey, Matt, you need a nickname before you fight in a few weeks." And it was like I said, it was a few weeks before my fight, and I'm like, okay. And everybody just starts naming stuff, joking here, joking there, and then I think it was Kip. He said, "How about the Mangler?" And everybody kind of giggled, and like I looked across at my buddy Oz, and Oz kind of like shaked his head like, "Oh, that's actually pretty cool." And they're like, the Mangler, and it just kind of stuck. And what's even better is maybe like a year before that, my friend at college at the University of Hartford, we see each other in the common area, and he goes, "Matt the Mangler." This is before I even started MMA. He goes, "Matt the Mangler," and I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "The Mangler. That'd be your nickname if you fought MMA." And I'm like, okay. And sure as shit, it was destined because I'm the Mangler now.
There you go. It's funny. They can, you got a handful of guys that never had a nickname, and then there's, you got a lot that have really cool, iconic ones like, like the Iceman and things like that. But then there's also some that just have really bad nicknames, and the Mangler is not a bad nickname at all.
think it's a good one. Iceman's a good one. I think the Natural's a good one.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think
what's a bad one?
The Barn Cat.
Camden.
You know, I mean, I that one just sticks out in my head, and I'm like, oh, that's a rough one. That's a rough one.
I don't know why he has that nickname, but it's got to be something humorous because Camden, he's pretty funny.
You know,
it's got to be something that came with a joke, you know.
Yeah, it's got to be something that stuck with him for a long time, some kind of inside joke to it. But I mean, that's you know, from the outside looking in, that's just me. You know, hey, you know, nothing against him, but that's a awkward nickname.
What's you know what I find very interesting about my nickname is it's the Mangler, and we know what to mangle means, right?
Yep.
A lot of times when I fight, I'm leaving guys like really bloody, or really beat up. When I actually get to go out there and do surgery on them, they're pretty beat up, and it's not. I'm not really one of those one-punch knockout guys. I'm one of those guys that punches you a shitload and it makes you want to quit, And while I'm punching you a shitload and making you want to quit, it's also leaving a lot of evidence on your face and on your body that I went to work tonight. And that's me. I mangled him.
That's a bit apropos, absolutely. Kind of like when you see, I can't think of one off the top of my head, but you end up getting some jiu-jitsu specialist who submits people left and right, and they're called like the Hammer, and it's like, are you sure about that? Not sure if that one fits. But yeah, the Mangler, that seems to fit.
Cooler.
Yeah.
The guard cooler.
So I want to be respectful of your time, but I did have just one more question for you. So obviously we were talking about your son Caleb. So you've got obviously a home life. Last time we were trying to coordinate and hook up to do this call, we had some home stuff that had to get done. Balancing work and life. You're not just balancing the home life with a day job in an office cubicle. You are fighting. You're fighting at a very high elite level, knocking on the doorsteps of the greatest cage fighting MMA organization in the world. How do you manage that balance?
It's I don't think I'm smart enough to be to let it bother me, because I take things as they come. I realize there's a lot on the line every single time I fight, with my health and with my future. And I realize that, every moment that I'm training, I possibly could be spending time making more money sitting at a desk job. But I don't think I'm smart enough for that. I think I don't think I'm smart enough to get a 9-to-5 job right now and just sit down and let my life waste away. Because for the past 10 years I've been absolutely busting my ass. Probably taking some time off of my life in the long run because I'm just, always beat up. But I think what I'm doing now is solidifying my place in life, and I'll feel like I will have accomplished great things when I'm finally, on my deathbed when I'm 85, 90 years old, and I'm looking back. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. I got to tell you, the cubicle life is not all it's cracked up to be. Believe me. Believe me, it isn't.
Well, there's a steady paycheck, and you don't have to worry about that, which is something that from time to time does definitely cross my mind.
Pros and cons, I guess. Pros and cons.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Matt, before we wrap up here, I want to give you the chance if you want to plug any social media, your Facebook, Instagram. Also plug your gym, the address. Where can people find you?
Yep, you can find me at Mangler BJJ on Twitter and Instagram, Matt Bessette on Facebook, and you can also find me Matt the Mangler Bessette on my Facebook fan page. Ascension Athletics, Ascension MMA is my new spot that's been open for a little over a year now in Bristol, Connecticut, and we are growing pretty quickly. And I'm really happy about what's going on right now at the gym. And I also train at Underdog MMA in Hartford, Connecticut, where I've been for quite a while now, about 7 years. Yeah, about seven and a half years now. And, I got to thank everybody there. Russell Leak is the head coach. Rafael Quinones is my jiu-jitsu instructor. who gave me my black belt in BJJ in January.
That's awesome.
And,
Congratulations.
I can sit here and thank everybody in terms of like my fans and followers, but I'm just going to say that, the people that have stayed with me since September of 2007, you know who you are. I appreciate you. I love you. And we are going to fight in the UFC. And when I say we, I mean we are going to fight in the UFC.
Awesome, Matt. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to talk with us today.
All right. Thank you, brother. How do you say your last name?
It's a tough one. Giugio. Rossi Giugio. No nickname yet, so I got to work on that one. That's a wrap, folks. Wasn't that fun? I had fun. We should do this more often. Come on back and see me sometime. Anyway, so thank you, folks. As always, remember, shoot me an email. Let me know what's going on. What would you like to hear next? Because we are planning global domination in Dog Life Radio. Teeing up the next interview with a strong man from Italy. Actually, Italy's strongest man in the 80-kilogram weight class. So we are talking to Canada. We're talking to Australia. We're talking to Italy. So where do you want me to go next? Shoot me a message. dogliferadio@yahoo.com. Peace.